We have made it to the November international break. Let's have a little look at the latest Bookies Premier League table predictions. Hello guys, and welcome back to yet another video. Like I say, we're having a look at the Bookies latest Premier League table odds and predictions. Take these with a pinch of salt. It's not my predictions, so if you don't like it, don't blame me. I know some of you like to get angry at some things, but let's try and keep this civil. In fact, share your thoughts down in the comments. Let me know how much you agree or disagree with these predictions. Get your predictions down in the comments. Make sure to drop a like while you are there. Let's go for 1001 likes. It'll take 2 seconds to do that, so go on, hit the like button. It really helps the channel out. And while you're there, make sure you are subscribed, get involved, and before you know it, Premier League football will be back next week. Let's get into the predictions then and see what the bookies are thinking. So then, as you can see, we are going to do this on a tier list. We're showing you the bookies' latest predictions on here just because it's easier to see and we like using tier lists on this channel. We'll go from the top to the bottom. You can see all of the categories here. The top 4, 5th to 7th, 8th to 11th, 12th to 14th. You get the idea. Right, who is predicted to finish top of the league with most of the bookies? Well, it's Liverpool. Liverpool, who are currently top of the league, are now the favourites. I think they might be odds on as well, which is interesting. At the start of every season over the last 5 or 6 seasons, Manchester City have been the favourites to go on and win the Premier League, including coming into this season. And that is because of their track record. They keep winning the Premier League, of course. But the bookies have changed their minds now, and that's not just because of Liverpool's great start and Manchester City's faltering. I do wonder if they are bearing in mind the court cases, which we might have a result on at some point this season, which could even lead to punishments. We will see, but on the pitch, I think I agree as well. Liverpool have been absolutely fantastic, the best defence in the league and the most clean sheets in the league. I mean, what I loved about Jurgen Klopp's Liverpool is how exciting they were, and it was always going to be big boots to fill for Slot, but he's been fantastic. They have been exciting, but they've been really solid at the back. They've picked up 6 clean sheets this season in just 11 games, so I understand this. They've opened up a gap, quite a considerable gap over Arsenal, and a pretty healthy gap over Manchester City too. So Liverpool are the favourites. Manchester City are coming in second place here. Man City are in their own little bubble at the moment. They're quite a few points off Liverpool, but they've got a healthy gap over 3rd place and 4th place. Manchester City at this moment in time, though, during the November international break, have suffered 4 defeats in a row in all competitions, which feels a little bit unprecedented with this Manchester City team. That does include 2 Premier League games away at Bournemouth and Brighton, and then they also lost to Tottenham in the Carabao Cup and Sporting in the Champions League. I will add that they were all away from home, and they have had quite a few injuries, of course. We need to fit that in. I still think they're definitely in the title race, and they are second favourites here to do it. As you expect with Manchester City now, they can wobble a little bit in the first half of the season, but really get going in the second half. So I would say don't rule them out. But looking at the next 3 games, really crucial this: Tottenham, Liverpool, and then Nottingham Forest. Those 3 could be quite tricky considering how those 3 have performed this season. But as you'd expect with Manchester City on the stats, averaging 20 shots a game, they're creating a lot, and I think they are going to go back to winning ways soon. But Liverpool are the favourites. Who's the 3rd favourites? It's Arsenal. I don't think at this point I'm going to say they are out of the title race, but they've got to be pretty faultless to get right back in there now, because the gap Liverpool have opened up is quite significant. But Arsenal do have the quality. Once again, they've been suffering with a few injuries. I will add the caveat, most red cards in the Premier League this season out of any team. They've had 3. But it's the form recently that's not great. 2 points in the last 4 Premier League games. They have to stop that run now. Their next game is at home to Nottingham Forest, and it is the definition of a must win if they're going to compete for the title. Share your thoughts, Arsenal fans. I wonder if many of you have given up on the title yet, or do you still think you could do it? It's going to require quite a lot of hard work. This is the interesting one then. So I think most people expected that to be the top 3 from the bookies. Who do they have as the favourites for 4th place though? It feels like it's wide open, but most of the bookies are going with Chelsea, who are currently 3rd, I might add, but there is almost nothing separating 3rd place and about 11th place at this moment in time. A very small amount of points separate those teams. So although Chelsea have been great, and I've got to give full credit to Maresca, who I think has been a real pleasant surprise, they've got to keep this going. They've got to keep Cole Palmer scoring the goals. They've had the most yellow cards this season. That might be worth putting in there. 42 yellow cards this season, which is quite a lot after 11 games. But that said, yeah, picking up some good results. Good little run recently. Let's see if they can stay in that top 4, because the bookies have them to finish 4th. Next up then, and this is just so difficult. I wouldn't know how to predict this just yet, but it's the race for Europe. I think you've got about 6 or 7 teams jostling for about 3 places here. The bookies have Tottenham in 5th place. Tottenham are currently 10th. So I think this is the biggest mover in terms of where a team currently is and where a team is projected to finish upwards. They've gone from being 10th to predicted to finish 5th. Like I say, there's very little to separate some of the teams. My problem with Tottenham has just been that inconsistency. I mean, they beat Manchester City in the Carabao Cup, they smashed Aston Villa in the Premier League, and then they go and throw points away against Ipswich and Crystal Palace. I mean, it's really peculiar. That said, we do need to give them credit still, despite that inconsistency. They are the top scorers in the Premier League this season with 23 goals. I mean, they've smashed a few teams up this season. Can they just be that bit more consistent? Because it certainly looks like they've got the quality. I wouldn't rule them out of 4th place. The bookies have put them in 5th place. In 6th place, we've got Newcastle. Newcastle's an interesting one. I mean, I expect them to be there or thereabouts. I think at the start of the season, I predicted them to be 7th. They are currently 8th. They've got the 3rd best defence in the league. That definitely needs highlighting. And they do come into this international break on the back of back-to-back victories. Isak is certainly a player who could fire them up the table. But like I say, this is just so difficult separating some of the teams here. Really, really tight, really fine margins. It could just be a case of who can keep most of their key players fit throughout the season. I think, like we've said before though, Newcastle not being involved in Europe could really play to their advantage. But at the same time, I wouldn't be surprised if they go on a really good Carabao Cup run and maybe win the competition. We will see. In 7th place then, the bookies are sneaking Aston Villa into this final European place. Absolutely impossible to predict this right now. Aston Villa could finish 4th, they could finish 8th, they could finish anywhere right now. I've got to say, I predicted them to finish 4th at the start of the season, and after the first few games I was like, yeah, I think I'm right. It does feel like maybe the congestion with fixtures has caught up to them a little bit, maybe missing 1 or 2 players as well. The form has certainly tailed off. They, just like Manchester City, have lost their last 4 games in all competitions, and then just before that run they conceded that late equaliser to Bournemouth. It feels like it all went wrong from that late goal they conceded. So maybe the international break is a good opportunity for Villa to reverse this trend afterwards. We will see. I will add the caveat that they have created the 2nd most big chances in the Premier League this season. So you put those numbers together with the quality that Aston Villa have got, they're going to be there or thereabouts, aren't they? Right, next up then, in 8th place, they're going for Manchester United. And this is a wild card. This is a wild card. Where are you going to put Man United? I don't know. Where are they currently? Manchester United are currently 13th. The big news is obviously Amorim is coming in, and his first game will be away at Ipswich Town. That could really set the tone. They've got to win that. They've really got to win that. It did feel like Ruud van Nistelrooy steadied the ship a little bit, brought in a few results that has given Amorim a platform and a base to build off. We will see. We will see. I don't know. I think maybe because Manchester United are a big name, the bookies are moving them up the table a little bit, but I don't know. They've had a pretty slow start. They've got to improve. Let's see how Amorim gets on, and let's see what business he does in January, I must say. Right, 9th place. They're going to go for Brighton. This is too close to call, isn't it? I think this could be one of the best races for Europe we've ever seen in terms of how close it is and how many teams are involved. I mean, Brighton are definitely in that discussion. This season, they are not in Europe. Just like with Newcastle, that could play to their advantage. With Brighton, I suppose a little bit of a wild card with the fact they've got a new manager this season, but he's doing great. They've pulled out some really good results recently. Their next few fixtures, now this is worth highlighting because I think Brighton have got a really favourable run. They face Bournemouth, Southampton, Fulham, Leicester, Palace, West Ham and Brentford in their next 7 or 8 games. That is a massive opportunity to go on a good run. Now, by no means am I saying, oh, that's an easy run. This is the Premier League. No games are easy, but it's a favourable run. If they can put wins together in that period, they can climb into that top 4 and stay there. They're currently 6th. Brighton fans, what we're saying, share your thoughts. I was very impressed with that win against Manchester City before the international break. Right, 10th place. They're going for Fulham. They've moved a couple teams down here. Fulham are currently 7th, and they've put them 10th. Interesting. Fulham do, at this moment in time, have 6 more points than they did at this stage last season. So they have improved. Smith Rowe, really impressive. And the most accurate crosses in the division for any team, Fulham. Good numbers. They are definitely involved. Marco Silva, I said it the other day, massively underrated. I mean, I think most people rate him, but I still think he could do with more recognition. Maybe the Fulham fans are thinking, no, let's not give him more recognition because he might get pinched by someone else. I think there's something cooking at Fulham. I like them. The bookies have got them 10th though. Might seem harsh. This one might seem harsh. Nottingham Forest. The bookies have Nottingham Forest 11th. It feels like whenever we do these videos, they always move Forest down. I still think 11th would be a really good season, but I think they're underestimating Forest. I think they're maybe looking at it and thinking, oh, they've had a good start. It'll be hard to sustain that. I don't know. The numbers look good for Forest. 2nd best defence in the league. 2nd in the Premier League away table as well. They have got difficult games coming. They've got Arsenal, and then I think they've got Ipswich at home. But then it's like Manchester City, Manchester United and Villa in December. That could be crucial. Imagine if they win 3 out of those 5 games. I think that's definitely possible. They've been a revelation this season. They've been absolutely fantastic, Forest. And the defence, like I say, deserves a lot of the credit. Milenkovic next to Murillo. The fullbacks, decent. Sells, he's been all right this season. Yes, they lost 3-1 to Newcastle before the international break. That might be a one-off. It might be. We don't know. It's Arsenal after the international break, so Forest have got to get it together. Who knows? They might get something there. They won at Anfield. They're the only team to have won at Anfield. So, yeah, I mean, fair enough. The bookies have put them 11th, which still would be a decent season. But if I'm a Forest fan, I'm not going to be too annoyed about that because I'm thinking to myself, all right, you write us off. We'll prove you wrong, just like we have done so far this season. So keep up the good work, Forest. Next up then, and pretty much level with Forest, are Bournemouth in 12th. I mean, Bournemouth and 12th place go together like that. They're currently 12th in the league right now. Interesting stats here. Most fouls committed in the league. Okay, but they've also hit the woodwork the most amount of times in the league. So, a bit unfortunate maybe. I mean, the results recently have been absolutely incredible. They're scoring lots of goals. And to beat Manchester City and Arsenal back-to-back at home, amazing. I thought they played really well as well against Brentford. Really liking the set pieces this season, those short corners that they're playing. But maybe still a little bit fragile with the goals they're conceding. But once again, you know, the bookies are putting Bournemouth 12th. I wouldn't be surprised if they finish in the top 10. So let's see. Right, 13th place is Brentford. I think there's maybe a little bit of a gap here between Bournemouth and Brentford at the minute. I mean, Brentford did just beat Bournemouth actually, but I think maybe at this point we're starting to say, right, all of these teams are looking up the table. We're going to come on to some teams in a minute that are looking down the table potentially. Brentford's numbers are really interesting. They are top of the home table. They've got the most points at home out of any team this season, but they're 19th in the away table. So, you know, much better at home. On top of that, their defence does worry me a little bit. They're the only team in the league not to have kept a clean sheet this season, and they've conceded 22 goals in 11 games. That's 2 per game. That said, it doesn't worry me that much because I know they've got goals. They've got goals that will get them enough points to keep them well clear of trouble. But if they could just address the defence a little bit, they might sneak on into that top 10. So Brentford 13th, I think that's one I probably agree with. If you're a Bees fan, share your thoughts. Right, 14th, West Ham. West Ham United. Interesting. West Ham 14th sounds about right based on what we're seeing so far. I'm not sure what to make of West Ham. It's early days with Lopetegui. The signs are not great, but it's not a disaster just yet. They've pulled out a couple of decent results. It's just once again about that consistency. 7 points in their last 3 home games, which is really good. But on the road, it does seem to be a different story. Just 2 points picked up in the last 4 away games. So, yeah, it just seems as if maybe they're doing that bit better at the London Stadium. 0-0 against Everton before the international break. It's all right. Feels like a very David Moyes versus Sean Dyche result, even though it's Lopetegui that's come in now. Interested to get the West Ham fans' thoughts. I mean, I understand why some fans thought, right, we need to change from Moyes. But do you think this was the wrong decision? Maybe it's too early to judge, but I think 14th sounds about right so far. Right, now we're looking at the bottom 6, and these are definitely, for me, the 6 that are involved in that scrap, in that relegation sandwich, as we like to call it. Who do the bookies have 15th? They've gone for Palace. I get that. Do you know what? I could see Palace flying out of this like an eagle. Flying out of the bottom 6 and finishing 15th, 14th or something. But let's look at the numbers. They are where they are for a reason. They are currently 18th. They've only won 1 game in 11. That doesn't sound like Palace. You know, they're usually pretty mid-table, aren't they? They're pretty solid. They've only scored 8 goals this season. That's the cause for concern there. They're not scoring enough. I know they've still got Eze and they've got Mateta, but I don't know. Maybe Elise is looking like quite a big miss. On top of that, the next few fixtures are Villa, Newcastle, then Ipswich, Man City, Brighton and Arsenal. So, I don't know. I mean, yeah, I can see Palace staying up. I could definitely see that. But maybe they might have to wait a few weeks to really get away from it, because those next few fixtures are not that kind. That Palace-Brighton game, by the way, that looks tasty. Right, who's going to finish 16th? The bookies have gone for Everton. Everton in their spiritual home of 16th. And they've got to make sure they finish in that spiritual home before they move on to their new home next season. They've got to make sure they survive. They've got to make sure they're not playing championship football in that new stadium. Looks awesome, by the way. Share your thoughts on the new stadium. I've seen quite a bit of footage of it. Looks all right to me. Although I will miss Goodison Park because that is a traditional one. But as for Everton this season, look, they started pretty well. They were worrying me. They were scaring me. Some of those results, some of the goals they were conceding, in the way they were throwing 2-goal leads away, it was the manner of the defeats. I was thinking to myself, oh geez, Sean Dyche is, under massive pressure. But trust in Sean Dyche, trust the process, trust Everton to get out of this. And they've started to pull away. They're not obviously safe yet. We're not even like a third of the way through the season. But only 1 defeat in the last 7 games. Their defence has got tighter. Only conceded 4 in the last 7 as well. The only issue is they're not scoring lots. They've scored 10 in 11. So they score under 1 goal a game. But it's the defence that probably will get them out of this. So, yeah, like I say, Everton in their spiritual home of 16th. That's what the bookies are saying. Right then, on to the bottom 4. We've got the 3 newly promoted teams and Wolves. I'm not sure if this is going to surprise you, but the bookies reckon Wolves will survive. We'll come on to that bottom 3 in a minute because the bookies always write off the newly promoted teams, but they fancy Wolves to get out of this. It does feel like Wolves have started to turn a corner. Don't get me wrong, they've been pretty poor this season. Lots of goals conceded. Not a great watch, I'm sure, for the Wolves fans. Late goals conceded as well. But those last 3 games have been a turning point. A couple of draws and then a crucial first win against Southampton. And they've scored, 6 in the last 3 as well. So, finding the back of the net is not a problem for Wolves. It's just those defensive numbers that worry me. They've conceded the most in the league, actually, 27. And like we said, the fixtures were difficult before. Now they're opening up. Look at these next few games. They've got Everton, West Ham, Ipswich and Leicester in December. That could be make or break. But you would imagine, as we've said before, with the muscle memory of being an established Premier League team, the Wolves will find a way of navigating out of this. But who knows? That's what the bookies think anyway. They've got Wolves in 17th. And so then, like I say, there you have it. You have the 3 teams that have come up to the Premier League, being predicted to still go down. Before we go through each of them, like I say, it does feel like a recurring joke that the bookies always think, well, those three will come back down, they've not got enough. I get it because, you know, they're going to be scrapping, and the three that came up last season did all go back down. But the three that have come up this season look better. They look much better than the three last year. I just think they've got a chance that one, maybe even two, could survive. I don't think all three are going to stay up. I think that could be a stretch, but maybe one or two survive if they can keep Wolves and Palace down there. So, let's have a look. They've got Leicester City 18th. Leicester's an interesting one, isn't it? I think they're going to be close to trouble, but I think they could just stay up. I think they could. It really depends how this goes as well, because I think with Steve Cooper they've got a chance. They've got a real chance, but it won't be comfy, should we say. That's my thoughts. They've got a real chance, but it wouldn't be comfy with Steve Cooper. Is it going to be that they take a risk and they sack Cooper and see if another one could get them a bit further away? That could backfire. I know some Leicester fans are not fully behind Steve Cooper, but I think what we've seen so far is good enough. They've picked up the most points so far from the three that have come up. But some of the football, I don't know, maybe not been amazing to watch, and some of the results haven't been great. They have conceded a few, but they're just churning out enough points at the minute to make you think they could get about 35, 36 points, and that is usually just enough. Leicester fans, what are you saying? I will say with Leicester, by the way, they've scored in every game this season up until the Manchester United game. So goal scoring is not a massive problem. They'd scored in every Premier League game up until that Man United game at the weekend, which they lost. In December, by the way, they've got Brighton, Newcastle and Liverpool and Man City. That's a difficult December for Leicester, where they need to try and get points somewhere because they could slide into trouble. In 19th place, they've got Ipswich. I don't know, this is really, really difficult. I personally think Ipswich have a really decent chance of staying up, whereas the bookies just seem to write them off. Ipswich could be mathematically safe and the bookies will still put some odds on them going down in that same season. But no, jokes aside, I think Ipswich have been hard to put your finger on. Good, but also questionable, should we say. That result against Tottenham is massive. It's absolutely massive. I'm delighted for them. And the thing is, they've got goals. That is crucial down there. If you've got Delap and Smodics chipping in with goals, you've got every chance. To beat Tottenham as well sends a real message and a statement of intent to the others. It's about taking points off those other teams down there, though. I mean, they drew with Leicester and Southampton. The Southampton draw felt fairly good because they scored in the last minute. The Leicester one didn't because it was at home and they conceded in the last minute. But they lost the Everton game, didn't they? You know, when they play Wolves and Palace, really got to, you know, try and squeeze 3 points over the line. So, I don't know. Some of the draws have been good against Villa and Brighton, but it's close, isn't it? I could see Ipswich being around 35 points. They're moving, not very fast, but they're moving, and that's the main thing. As long as you keep the points coming, they could have a real chance. I think this could be really close this season, but I want them to be in the battle. You don't want them to be cut adrift. I think they're going to be in the battle. And then finally, they've got Southampton. Southampton's a funny one. I feel like they do have a chance. You know, when they beat Everton, it made me think that's a crucial result. And some of the performances as well, they've been a bit unlucky, I will say that. I'm not going to make that excuse for everyone. I think they have been a bit unlucky. But the reality is, they are the lowest scorers still. Only scored 7 this season. And they have lost 6 out of 6 away games. They've got to get some away points. I think for sure at St Mary's they're going to get a few wins. But they've got to get something away from home at some point. It's the late goals as well that worry me with Southampton. You know, I think that the style of football has been brought into question, but I don't know. I think they've got a fighting chance. I do. I really don't think anyone is dead and buried. I think Southampton, for me, right now, probably look like the most likely just because they are currently bottom and they haven't had much go their way. But I don't know. If they could just suddenly string back-to-back wins together, or even if any team down here can get 4 points in 2 games, they go zipping up the relegation battle because it's that congested. So long as you hang on in there and you don't get cut adrift, if you get 3-4 points in 2 games, you move up. So that's what the bookies think. And I tell you what I would say to the Leicester, Ipswich and Southampton fans. I would say don't be too upset about this. I know you might see this as being written off, but I don't know, this could work to your advantage. Say that the pressure's not on you. Okay, yeah, we're going down. All right, prove them wrong. Because I'd love to see at least one of them stay up. We can't keep having the 3 that have come up go down. You know me, I'm a championship enthusiast. Let's try and get one of them over the line this season. But who will it be? I don't know. Share your predictions, guys. That wraps it up. That is the bookies' latest Premier League table predictions. Some of it I agree with, some of it I'm not too sure. It is difficult, I will admit. But let's see what you guys have to say. Get your comments down below. If you've enjoyed, do take 2 seconds to hit the like button. It takes 2 seconds, so go on. Get involved. Make sure you are subscribed as well. A massive, massive thank you to those of you guys that have already got involved. It really is helpful in helping this become my dream job. So yeah, get involved and I'll see you next time for more Premier League content. Take care. Peace out.